Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Flash, Season 1, Episode 9, The Man in the Yellow Suit. The episode is rated TV-14, so with this video there will be spoilers for the episode and everything Arrowverse leading up to it, but not any that came after this episode first premiered. Another episode that I absolutely love. I might talk fast during this video because my back pain, yeah. I will start with recommending, if you haven't already watched, since it is Women's History Month, I am making sure to, whenever I can in these videos, recommend a, female YouTuber's video. I try to, I do that other times of the year as well. But anyway, the a recent Legion Miller, an explainer, my wrist are too sort of look up the exact title, but it's something along the lines of Why Are We at War with Iran Now? Excellent video. One of the best I've seen on this very important topic. And I thought she did a really great job of underlining, let's not, not everything Trump does is because of the Epstein files, which I've recently seen some people refer to as the Trumpstein files, which I do think makes a lot of sense. And there is one deleted scene on the DVD for this. It's basically an extended version of, them taking care of Dr. Wells after the, so they don't say it 100%. I guess for now I will go with Cisco's opposite Flash, even though I'm not sure if that's exactly what he's called in the comics. But yeah, and there's a funny joke at the start of the scene where, Kate is like, you really should be at a hospital, and he's like, why? The best doctor I know is right here, and you're not so bad yourself. That's pretty funny. And after the conversation, which plays out about the same as in the actual episode, then the other, I'm afraid I forget her name, but the other scientist shows up and confronts him, and says, as we realize by the end of the post-credit scene, he made this happen. This was not, something that happened to him. And he points out, 5 cops died. I almost died. This whole thing. And to really hammer home for the audience, Dr. Wells is really willing to do some awful things to accomplish his goals, and he is well aware that that's what he's doing, and he's actually using that as it's that thing of it's the big lie kind of thing. Hitler would say, if you tell a lie big enough, and I'm not saying Dr. Wells is literally Hitler, but it is that kind of, it's a villainous thing to do. It's an evil thing to do. Basically weaponizing people's empathy in order to defend or protect your own ability to do and get away with evil things. Anyway, I think that does bring us to the let's see. Those are the so the episode itself, really cool, seeing Flash go up against Flash, and they knew that we'd be excited for it, so they put it right there in the teaser, and then one day earlier it's like, oh, we want to see more of that, and I think that pretty much, I gotta say, so I'm not the biggest Christmas person, but I used to be really big on it. And to be clear, I've always made sure that I didn't. I've tried really hard to not make anyone who, I'm aware there are people who really don't like Christmas because they and their family get treated really badly around it because they're not even perceived as Christians. I've never been a Christian, nor will I ever be. But when I was younger, a lot of people just kind of assumed, and I try not to make people uncomfortable who don't like Christmas. I did used to really like it, and I gotta say, it was one of the best things about Christmas is getting to decorate the tree. Yeah, it takes forever. You're welcome. That's the great part. You get to do a thing that makes other people happy for a really long time. So many of these things are over so fast, and you don't get to really relish being able to do something positive. Like I know I've said it before, but it is one of the best things in life is to try to make things better, to put a smile on people's face and that sort of thing. So I did like Joe telling Flash, not to, yeah. And then he, after speeding through putting it on, then he speeds through removing it. And then Iris walks in. Tree's not going to decorate itself. That was pretty funny. And I guess that does bring us to the, let's see. Right. The gift giving was quite good, and I like the repeated mention of the grandma's nog, which is heavy on the alcohol, and Joe has to go, but he says leave some nog for me. I mean, he is a really really great DS9 character, so I appreciate that. But yeah, Iris really wants to give gifts, and I like the little thing of like, oh, me first. That was kind of cute. And let's see, I think the yeah, and I gotta say, my thoughts were, I mind melded with Eddie. Our thoughts were the same. You don't give a wedding band to someone you just like. You give it to someone you like. And yeah, I mean, her gift was nice. It wasn't quite as personal, but And let's see. I think the actress playing Iris does a really great job, because you can tell like there's a little bit of like, this is an interesting gift for best friend to give, and later when she's talking to Eddie and she's in denial about how Barry feels, and yeah, I think that is it for that scene. I guess this is a decent time to talk about. I really love the. I mean, technically, chronologically, it's not the very first time we've seen it, But yeah, seeing both colors of lightning effect, and yeah, this idea that one of them is red and makes yellow lightning, the other one is yellow and makes red lightning. Yeah, I love the part where they race and the camera zips and whips around to try to catch up to them, keep up with them, and of course frequently can't. Every so often they'll just run so fast that the camera just has to stay behind, kind of thing. Very effective. And I really do appreciate that they don't film every Flash scene like that. The top-down bird's eye view kind of ones where we're just seeing the Flash move really fast while everything else moves slow, or normal pace rather. Yeah, work really really well, and the mix helps sell the illusion incredibly well. Yeah, I think that is when roughly in the episode where they both race, and ultimately Barry can't quite keep up, and we have the thing about and yeah, he immediately realizes this has to be his mother's killer. And I think that is when we oh is this maybe when Kate, no, that's later, isn't it? Okay, let's, so there's definitely somewhere around here we have the scene of Op Flash trying to steal the tachyon thing, and the yeah, the guy does manage to hide, and I do think it worked well that so by the end of the episode we realize, okay, so this entire thing was orchestrated by Dr. Wells. He's got like was it the AI running? Does the AI have enough of a physical form to be running the suit? I'm not entirely sure, but and so he arranged for this to. I mean, I can imagine he would probably have been fine with being able to steal the tachyon prototype here in this scene, but then we wouldn't have an episode. And it is very clever to say, oh, we'll set up a trap, and then he makes sure that the yeah, that it doesn't quite work out for the trap, and he uses that classic gambit of, well, how could I be in league with the bad guy? You saw me be attacked by the bad guy. And let's see. I should have enough voice for the rest of this video. Yes, then we have the, let's see. I think that might be when the, so yeah, Barry goes to talk to the others at Star Labs and, brings some of the Nog for the Noggy goodness. And is, yeah, Dr. Wells does not want any. And then we have the thing about the, I think it's, yeah, it was very nice. The thing about, you've been a gift to all of us, and just, yeah, it's very nice. This, all right, according to IMDb, this aired December 9th, so it was, that's part of why it's so Christmassy. It's also possible they just watched a Shane Black movie. I picked one at random. And we have the, yeah, so after that get together, we see Kate afterwards, and we hear over the phone, she's on, she's on with Cisco, and apparently Dr. Wells has a problem with Stephen Hawking, which is one of those things, like, that's an interesting way this episode has aged, because, like, when this first aired, people were probably like, Dr. Wells, he's just always butting heads with everyone. But then, kind of the Trumpstein files, now a lot of us are like, oh, I cannot believe I used to look up to him. And I think, yeah, and so, she sees, so he insists that he is not Ronnie anymore. So I guess I will not refer to him as that, but yeah, he, he's like hiding behind her, and, she catches just enough of it, and he also, we see his powers, and seems kind of hot-headed. Do character traits carry over between different roles? Because Danielle Panabaker, who plays Kate, has dealt with people who fit that description, not necessarily superpowered, in some other roles of her, some of her horror work. Now, I think that does get us to, yeah, I liked her asking Cisco, for help finding Ronnie. And let's see, the fact that he does actually help, despite the ominous nature of the hiding place. And yeah, I guess I might as well just briefly talk about it. So yeah, during the, they managed to find him, and, I really liked her reflecting on that later, talking about how, she got another minute with him, and now she wishes that he had died that night, and yeah, it is really, really difficult when someone, you really care about, you see them in a state that is so horrible. So yeah, that's such an important, again, a lot of the audience for these shows, young, teenagers and such, really, really important to learn that early in life. And I guess that does, but yeah, he says, Ronnie Raymond is dead. Call me the Firestorm, which, I mean, I do think that name makes a lot of sense for pretty obvious reasons. Evidently, his favorite Command and Conquer entry is, oh wait, the powers. Yeah, I guess that makes sense too. And I think that is when the I thought they did a good job building up the emotion of Barry coming face-ish to face with Flash, Op Flash, and the evidence board and the flashback, and that's so so heartbreaking. She asks, she talks about, are you afraid? Alone in the dark, and I'm like, I mean, I hear that's one of Uwe Boll's worst, and that's saying something. The only one I've watched was The House of the Dead because I love those games, and boy, does he not know what he's doing in that one. I guess she could also be talking about the games, but yeah, genuinely, really, really sweet, and so sad when we really, yeah, the very night that she was taken from him, she was telling him, you'll never be alone in the dark. And I guess that does bring up the other scene there. Yeah. Eddie points out to Joe, clearly Flash was involved here. And then he says, you would do the same as I am doing right now if you were in my shoes. And I appreciate that Joe doesn't pretend, because yeah, that this does feel like something Eddie may well have picked up from Joe, this kind of dogged determination. The just refusing to let, when Joe feels he's right, he does not give up at all. Very admirable trait. And yeah, the thing of, Eddie asking to move in, her to move in with him, very sweet. And I did like that, yeah, there's the thing about, wedding ring, is a big deal, and then he puts something, and yeah, she and we at first think, oh, he is proposing, which, I mean, some people do after 1 year. That's not necessarily too early. Depends on, I mean, the big thing is, the couple of big things are financial security and knowing each other, knowing that you work well together, being confident about those things. But it turns out to be the key. And I feel like that does get us to, yeah, and Eddie picking up on, Barry's being weird, because he's really struggling to not tell her. And then we also have the scene where he does actually tell her, and I thought they played it just beautifully. It's the kind of thing of, because it changes the relationship, and it's crucial that it is clear that this is a big deal, but it's also not, it's definitely not going to happen yet, but I wouldn't say that the door is necessarily bolted shut forever either. She's with Eddie right now. That's a really big, that's a fantastic reason to not get into a relationship with Barry right now. That does not mean that there's never going to be anything. She is there at the end, celebrating with the others. She smiles at Barry. Clearly she does still care about him. And I think that does pretty much, yeah. So they set up the trap. I like the, at first she doesn't agree to the prototype, and I really like, the yeah. I appreciate the way that every time Dr. Wells deals with someone who knows him well, it's like, Dr. Wells, really? I have to work with this guy, And yeah, her... Oh, right. In the deleted scene, she also said, you have never let anything get out of your control, which is what he claimed happened. That's why the tachyon device is missing now, he says. But the, yeah. I don't think I need to repeat, but just her choice words about and to him were really great. And yeah, Barry manages to talk her into it by pointing out, he, as a science guy, almost like Bill Nye, he could easily, give scoops on a lot of these things, and it's like, she kind of wants to reveal it once they're sure they can do it, not just now. It can be really detrimental if you're if people know too much about that sort of thing before you're ready to reveal it. You need to be sure you can even get it to work. These are all prototypes, And also, hypothetically, maybe one of their competitors will start working on the same exact thing, get something ready sooner and patent it or something. So, and I guess that does pretty well cover the right. I do also appreciate, it was kind of like we weren't sure if we could hope that Irani was still around, but yeah, it's like others also went through really extreme. I mean, Barry survived lightning strike. I'm afraid I forget his name right now, but there was the guy who had the energy based powers. He was like killed by the and came back. Not to mention Mist. I don't think that's his name, but yeah, the cloud guy who was literally executed, as it was. Anyway, it's the season time to mention. So I watched the I'll plug both of them. I already mentioned all the other. I'm not going to go over the entire list because it's by now in the dozens, but I own some riff tracks. And the two most recent I got were Alien, that first movie, and Terminator Salvation, and they're both amazing. Even if you watched, years and years ago, I watched some best of compilations of both of them. Trust me, there was still some amazing stuff in there that I'm really glad I was able to listen to. Anyway, I think that might cover, let's see, there's at least one more thing. So I really did appreciate this, the fact that Dr. Wells is so determined, such a zealot for this cause that we still don't know all the details of, that he's willing to hurt himself, because if they wanted to convey, he wasn't supposed to be attacked, then he would have been standing in front of the suit and verbally theorizing, I need to put in safeguards so my suit doesn't attack me ever again, that sort of thing. But no, that was and I guess that was the and I do appreciate, thinking back, I think he was in the suit. They blur his face because of the speed thing and the voice modulation and such. I think that might actually have been the actor, or at least some of it. The face and the voice, there's just enough. And I think that does. But yeah, very, very cool. Each time the two flashes flash against each other. And if there were enough speedsters that all went by flash, you could call it a flash flood. And the way that Op Flash would provoke Barry, saying, I'm faster than you, you can't beat me, kind of thing. And for a while Barry isn't there, and then he gets the SOS, and really, really cool seeing them fight each other. And at the end, Barry points out, he's been afraid of Op Flash his entire life, and that's why he lost, which makes me really excited because I do not think this is the last time the two are going to fight. I'm thinking we're going to get a rematch. And I also really appreciate how early this was. Let's see, what are we? I guess just past a third of the way through the first season. I'm really, really glad that they didn't hold off on this sort of thing forever. There's so many shows where they just take an eternity to get to the thing that we're kind of here for. I'm sorry, but after the pilot, who doesn't want to see Op Flash, you know? And I guess I've mentioned before, they made sure that there was just enough of an indication that we could see there's a person there, isn't there? Like they're running extremely fast, but yeah. I actually forget, was it by the end of the first episode or was it a later episode? But they, other characters on the show actually did point out there was someone in there, wasn't there? Because, once you have the frame of reference of Barry having speedster powers, I liked Joe bringing Eddie in on. I feel like maybe he should have asked, "Can you keep a secret?" before telling him it. Who's going to keep a secret? And I guess there's at least one more thing. It was really cool that Barry was saved by Firestorm, who says, "Don't find me again," and then flies off. And I do appreciate, yeah, I mean, hypothetically, if your arms were flames that you controlled like that, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to fly, I mean, it's essentially the same principle as like a jet engine, propulsion. So I think that it, but I do not think that's the last time we're going to see him either. Just maybe next time it won't be Kate finding him. I guess, let's see. And also appreciate, like, it does seem to get to him. I mean, he killed those muggers. And I feel like there's at least one more thing I really want to say about this episode. So I'm just real quick going to mentally fast forward through. Let's see. It is... No, maybe that was everything. Right. Since, Women's History Month, yeah, really appreciated, the day would not have been won if not for Kate. I mean, Firestorm didn't like being found, but after she found him, he helped stop Op Flash. She was the one who sent the SOS. And I guess that is... I liked Iris helping with the articles about Burning Man. And I guess that does... let's see, there's at least one more thing. Let's see. Yeah, I think that might be everything. Yeah, I like that the when Barry tells Iris that he likes her, even if she doesn't like him too. Just earlier that day, she asked directly, and he said no. So that does make it, yeah. And I really appreciated, a lot of these TV shows, scenes will go by very fast, and ultimately it's not a huge amount of screen time, but it had weight. That's another thing. I really appreciate that it's already now that he's telling her, because that was something I was a tiny bit worried about, that they were just going to go on forever without him telling her. Now it is in part her decision. Now, obviously, that's complicated by the fact that she's already with Eddie, but one of the things that can get really problematic with this sort of thing is if the guy is not telling the girl for a really long time and ends up being like really bitter towards her, and she doesn't even know that he likes her. Like he has not given her a chance to actually, give him the thing that he wants from her, this companionship and, reciprocal love kind of thing. Again, I get it's difficult, but you either have to let go of those feelings or tell the person, depending on which is the more ethical in the situation. You cannot just keep them bottled up and not... Yeah. let's see. And you especially cannot blame the other person who doesn't even know. It really frustrates me how much I see young cishet men, many of them white, but I'm willing to admit not exclusively, but I try to primarily criticize cishet white men. I've seen members of minorities criticize the minorities they belong to, so that's not necessary for us cishet white men to do. I'm not saying that it's always wrong for us to do it. I'm going to move on. The number of the percentage, the way too high percentage of cishet men who will expect others to be mind readers and then get really mad at them and then claim that that's something women do. Like, I'm not going to pretend like there's no women who do that, but I would say over the course of my life, I have probably encountered about 50-50 of, men and women. Half the people I've met have been women. And yet, the number of times that someone has expected me to just magically know what they were thinking, what they wanted, without them communicating it to me at all, the vast majority of the time, that has been men. Like, if a woman is not openly communicating to you what she's feeling, what she's wanting with regards to you, like, there's a chance that she doesn't trust you. Like, obviously, if you just met her, you can't expect her to immediately trust you. But otherwise, it's probably because she already said it, and you just didn't pay attention or something, and she got annoyed with you not paying attention. Like, it's hardly ever happened to me that a woman has just, and trust me, that is something that I would remember because it bothers me every time. Like, I get that I am sometimes terrible at communicating in either direction, but it doesn't make it easier when people just expect me to be able to guess. Like, there are things. I remember once where this guy, we were both teenagers. He was so mad at me, and for years I had no idea why, and every so often, I got ADHD, I obsess over things. Every so often, over the course of years, I'd be thinking back, was it because, no, it can't have been that he was mad about. Certainly not that mad. And I think after about a decade, I finally realized, oh, I guess it must have been that. And I'm not going to give the details, but it was a miscommunication. As best I can tell, somebody else lied about something I said about him, and he was mad at me, but he didn't tell me that it was. And it's just like, I mean, for one thing, maybe give me a chance to defend myself, explain myself. Once again, that's something that I've seen many, many women do. When I'm not going to pretend like I've never said or done something that has upset a woman I cared about, but the vast majority of the time, they would talk to me about it. And they wouldn't necessarily forgive me, but they would hear me out. And there are guys out there who I know hated me. It's been so many years. Hopefully they don't, hate me still, but they hated me and they didn't give me a chance to explain myself. And I'm someone who really doesn't like when people will just assume things. Anyway, yeah, I think that was what it was that he was mad at me about. And if he had just talked to me about it, I would have been able to clear it up. But it was something that I didn't realize it when it was happening. It was just like thinking back on it years later. I was like, the way that person was looking at me, oh, did they think? Anyway, yeah, I thought they did a really great job in this episode handling this, love triangle thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it further develops. Like, clearly they are still friends, and that's, it's the kind of thing that can destroy a friendship, so appreciate that. But yeah, and let's see, yeah, I like the thing about how, he says, I have wanted to tell you so many times, there have been so many Christmases where I wanted to say. And I have to admit, there's only so many places that I've heard this notion. I don't know, maybe it's just not a very Danish thing. I think we have other stuff for Christmas, but uh, yeah, this is not the only place that I have heard this idea that, at Christmas you tell the truth. But I gotta say, when I hear that idea, which is what is being implied here, he doesn't come right out and say that, but that's, I feel like that's certainly something you could read into it. My first thought is, oh, I guess Barry just recently watched Love Actually. It's still pretty ridiculous to me that the guy in that movie who was holding up the sign saying, at Christmas you tell the truth, and doing this big, gesture that some have interpreted as romantic, others disagree. I don't know exactly where I land on it right now. That guy, he went on to play a very, yeah, well-known role where the one of them, a thing that he does more than one occasion is kill zombies, and just the contrast between these two works is remarkable.